expressing deep concern that environmental destruction from galamsey continues at an alarming rate. UTAG noted the Attorney General's directive for IOCO to investigate political actors allegedly involved in illegal mining, but stressed the need for more robust and sustained interventions. They appeal, they've been appealing to the president to honor the anti-galamsey pledge he signed ahead of the 2024 general elections, and the association reminded the president that the commitment represents a social contract with Ghanaians and called for accountability and decisive leadership to restore the nation's degraded land. And we want to walk you through quickly, before we connect with UTAG leadership, that pact they speak about, because they mention the president's commitment to a pact, a very important pact which was signed by 6 political parties ahead of the December 7 elections in 2024. What are the details of that pact, and really what more does it say? That's a big question we're seeking to ask ourselves, even as we connect with the leadership of UTAG to get an understanding from them, because the government has a very different perspective on the galamsey fight. But let's go to our board quickly and bring you details of what that pact in 2024 had to say with respect to the new government and the actions expected of them when they assumed office in dealing with galamsey. And so these were the key demands as were captured in that pact. The first, declaring a state of emergency to halt illegal mining. That was one of the many things which dominated conversations in the lead up to the December elections. And dare I say, a number of people have actually said it, that galamsey potentially could have been one of the many things that cost the previous administration losing that election. Also, complete cessation of mining activities in forest reserves and water bodies. We've seen blue water guards come into effect by this administration, but it remains to be seen really what the verdict of UTAG is. And there's an important reason why they are coming up with this, and I'll give that to you just after going through these parts. And also, another of the key demand, evacuation of mining equipment and strict enforcement of the law. These were the key demands UTAG made, or was in the pact, rather, which was signed by the 6 political parties. Let's go on to the other demands which were put forward by the civil society groups and all well-meaning Ghanaians in the lead up to the election. Now, to denounce galamsey for its destructive impact on the environment, health, and well-being of Ghanaians, including future generations. Also, demand cessation of all galamsey activities by those involved and the associates. And let's look at the political parties quickly, who were representative and signed to this pact, signatories of parties to this pact. We had President John Mahama at that time, who was a former president and the NDC's flag bearer. He signed onto it. And then there was the vice president at the time and also NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia, signed onto the pact along with the New Patriotic Party as well as the NDC. Then there was Kofi Akpaloo, Liberal Party of Ghana, Alan Chamantain of the Movement for Change, Hassan Ayariga, All People's Congress, APC, and then George Chum Berima, who was an independent presidential candidate. They signed on to that pact, and is the reason why UTAG continues to make, amongst many other things, raise concerns. Now, I mentioned why UTAG possibly is coming up with this latest reminder to the government. Remember that planned nationwide strike by labor unions, which in the long run was botched because a number of the groups said it wasn't a pressing demand so greatly to have them lay down their tools. UTAG was one of the many unions which proceeded on their industrial action and stayed on strike up until a particular point in time before their decision to call it off. And so they, for want of a better word, have a bone to pick with any administration because of that stance they took in the lead up to the December election. Let's hear quickly from the Defense Minister, Dr. Edward Omane Boama, who says that the military will continue to partner other agencies in the fight against illegal mining, and then will come onto the telephone lines and engage UTAG. But he's been speaking, the defense minister, he's been speaking at the ongoing government accountability series here in Accra.
The Ghana Armed Forces has played significant supporting roles in the fight against illegal mining, galamsey. We are not out of the woods yet as a nation, but there is hope because there is a political will at the very top. We have reviewed the fight against illegal mining and have worked with stakeholders to reform the fight. The National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, is a product of that review exercise. The recovery of several forest reserves early this year, which our forest guards could not venture, was led by the Ghana Armed Forces. Additionally, the Navy supported land forces in Operation Hall 2 to combat illegal mining along River Ankobra in the western and western north regions. The Navy's riverine operations along the Volta River, like Operation Oasis in Bui, also assisted in reducing the effects of illegal mining on the Black Volta.
Let's go onto the telephone lines right now. Professor Elias Mumuni is the National Secretary of UTAG. He's joining us this afternoon via Zoom for a quick chat on their concerns and what they say is a lack of impression by the current administration to amongst many other things, do enough to deal with illegal mining. Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us. We've just heard from the defense minister. They've recovered a number of forest reserves. We've heard as well from the Minister for Government Communications over the weekend on Key Point, who said there's been significant achievements chalked in the fight against galamsey. Why do you say enough has not been done by this government?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your platform. Yes, so
well, it does appear the internet connection. Right, Prof.
And achievements.
Prof, we may have lost you just
that the.
Right, Prof. We're back. You're back with
Hello,
us.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can. You are seeking
Great.
to make your point.
So I was saying, yes. So I was saying that our statement really have underscored the importance and current significant strides being made by government. And we recall, for instance, the bold initiative of the Attorney General asking for IOCO to proceed with some members of this current administration, and other efforts like reclaiming about 8 out of 9 of the forest reserves, in addition to several other initiatives or interventions. We've been following these developments by government. But as you rightly put them, when we signed the pact in 2024,
right,
prior to the general elections, one of the key fundamental issues we asked for from those leaders of the two political parties, now President Mahama, was basically that we need a state of emergency. And that would have allowed the government enough space and control to really deal with these existential issues. The second was a complete cessation, and that had to do with the removal of Act, the typical 2462.
LI 2462.
Exactly, LI 2462. Instead, we've had some portions of it being amended, but for us, we still think it's offered enough oxygen to the stakeholders and actors in the illegal mining space. That an ideal thing would have been for a complete removal of that particular law, and that would have meant that mining in anything closer to water bodies, forest reserves, and other spaces that are considered very critical and essential to national development would have been completely stopped. whether you've had a license before or you are now to apply it, it's neither here nor there. But unfortunately, the amendment still offers enough spaces for people who are interested in trading in this illegality to continue. And that is where, we are saying that the amendment is not enough. And most of the government is actually fronting for, it's good, but we still need to push harder than they are doing. The turbidity,
levels,
the devastation, the stability level of our water bodies and the devastation is really in a higher level that we really cannot sit and still do the normal talk, and we are doing that and we are doing that. And that is why we came up with this statement to push government that whilst we acknowledge the effort being made, we think the effort is not actually enough, and we need to do more, considering that we signed a pact and we were very definite in the actions that were to be taken within the period of 6 months.
Prof, on the LI 62462, the government has, I think from this weekend, the understanding we got is that really that legislation does not allow for mining in forest reserves. In fact, the argument which was made by the Minister for Government Communications from this weekend is that we've signed agreements with mining companies who are mining in forest reserves, amongst many other things. The coming into force of LI 2462 is not what is allowing illegal mining to take place, because illegal mining is illegal mining, whether or not LI 2462 exists in our statute books.
Unfortunately, we have seen quite a number of concessions or other licenses being offered to individuals who are pushing through Forest Commission to be allowed to go for mining. And most of these documentations are what led to UTAG having an emergency meeting to have this particular communique or press release out. We think that even though those aspects of the law have been taken care of, but you go through from the beginning to the end, especially for those who still are having licenses and claiming that they are within the ambit of the law to mine, elements within these groups, by extension, also contribute significantly to the illegality. And a total, cessation of it would have given all stakeholders the space to push for a holistic frame that allows for the environment to come back to life and for government to do the proper thing. But at this point that we are trying to pick one aspect and then leave the rest, it means that we are not having a coherent and a system level fight when it comes to this issue of illegal mining.
Right, Prof, let's round up the conversation on the specific demands we're expecting to see from the government within the next month or so. I know LI 2462 immediately from our conversation continues to be one of the many things. You as well want that state of emergency brought into effect, despite the government saying that that might not necessarily be all that.
So typically, you recall, which we captured as part of our statement, the president himself stating that this is a national emergency. And so it doesn't matter the wordings we give to it. What we just want is a very intense fight, a very intense initiative, higher than we are experiencing and seeing now. It can be the state of emergency. It can be going back to making sure that the legislative instruments governing the entire mining system is relooked at in such a way that we can clamp down on these practices that are happening. Of course, the military, like you played out, are doing well. The task force, the minister, the chiefs, and all other stakeholders, but we need more. And that more is what we as UTAG are not actually seeing. Because by this time, we should have seen that drastic change. And the fear and the panic aspect of it has to do with elements of government now being involved
And what happens? What happens if these specific actions you're requiring you do not see from government?
Absolutely, we are a stakeholder who really appreciate how the law is structured, and we are in a process, and so we think at this stage that the dialoguing and engaging the general public is key, and we'll move to the next step by engaging again the presidency and the minister, and subsequent to that, if for now we cannot, but if we are hoping that we shouldn't really get to any level that we will be pushed to take any industrial action line. But we are just hoping that government will heed to our call and then beef up the processes that are required to make sure that we see calmness coming back to the environment and our water bodies.
Prof, thank you very much. That's Professor Iliasu speaking to us. He's the National Secretary of the UTAG, the University Teachers Association of Ghana, speaking to us this afternoon. We took you to the presidency for that presser by the defense minister. Well, he says that ammunitions moved from the defense ministry to national security in 2024 remain unaccounted for. He was speaking at government's accountability series here in Accra.
Kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions which have since not been accounted for.
Well, Richard Kwadaso is a fraud prevention expert and a security consultant. Let's pick his thoughts on these rather interesting revelations. Mr. Kwadaso, thank you very much for your time. How do armories, ammunition, move from the armory of the military to national security, and amongst the security heads, a conclusion is drawn that these are not accounted for?
The movement, there's always a chain of command, and there's a responsibility chart we follow when arms and ammunition are being moved, which means that somebody is responsible at all points and at all places. Who receives the ammunition, who gives an order, who retrieves it, where is it distributed to? What we are talking about here is not just like ammunition vanish into the air. Somebody distributed an ammunition and has not made an account for. So you need to hold people accountable. Once people are held accountable at all times, they won't be able to tell us where these ammunition move to and who is responsible for what. That is what we have not done in the past 7 months. Until today, not many people are aware that these occurrences are taking place. Of course, for some of us within the security intelligence community, we are aware of this movement of ammunition and how inappropriate it has been, and those responsible have upon their responsibility. So I agree with the minister, but I'm also saying that for 7 months, accountability is key. If we had held people accountable, we wouldn't have been using the language that they are not found and they are not accountable for, and they are missing within the system.
Mr. Kwadaso, from what you're saying, you're not with the military, you're a security expert, yet you have wind, or you've caught wind of the fact that ammunition has been moved a number of times and it's not accounted for. Is it the case that this is not being taken seriously enough, considering we have on our hands as a country a proliferation of arms and the situation in the sub-region and all? These ammunitions being moved from the armories and not being accounted for, it's not being taken serious enough.
Definitely, it's a laxity within the system, but I think this is a deliberate action by people within the military and national security and the storage facilities where some of these arms are being stored. There's no way armory or ammunition will move from the military barracks into national security to the Osu Castle, and they will not be accounted for,
right,
and records will not be taken, and they cannot be retrieved. It is not done. It is not possible. And if anybody tells you it is possible, the person is a liar. I have put in 29 years. And I can tell you, those days at the National Security Secretariat, it used to be a police officer who handled all movements of ammunition to and fro, in and out. We need to find out what happened, why it was taken from the police officer and it was sent to the Minister of Interior, and why certain functions that were being performed by certain specific people were changed overnight. And that is what happened. And I think that it is politicians who create all these problems for everybody, and we keep on complaining. And we also know the relationship or the correlation between arms smuggling, money laundering, fraud, and crime. And crime is going up across our country. And that should be a sort of concern to everybody who is well meaningful and who understands the issues we are talking about now.
Right. Well, the minister says there's no cause for alarm, despite the fact that they've not been accounted for. As a Ghanaian watching at home, should they be taking those words seriously and be trusting that something will be done to get to the bottom of this, the minister's words?
What alleviates fear for people, to our mothers and fathers and aunties and uncles, and to young students who are listening to the minister, what will alleviate their fear, considering the fact that we face armed robbery and crime violence on the increase, and it's not descending anytime soon. Students are using guns, and the Small Arms Commission is having difficulty in retrieving some of these guns or even coordinate activities around it. What will alleviate the fears is, one, people are held accountable. Two, there's a concrete evidence that people are being prosecuted. And three, there's a concrete evidence that the arms that cannot be found are retrieved. But just saying that we should not be afraid, I can tell you, those who have been affected or those who are victims of armed robbery and gun violence will not take that seriously. What will let them believe the minister and believe the government saying that we are doing something about this 7 months into governance is that let's hold people accountable, let's retrieve the ammunition, and let there be levels of responsibility. And that, with the audit trail, will tell people that yes, we are doing something about this particular area, in this particular area, and something about it. And those are the things I think seriously, with the knowledge I have in this area, seriously, I think those are the things that will rather alleviate the fears of people and not just to say that we should not be worried. We have to be worried seriously.
Mr. Kumado, we'll leave the conversation here. I'm sure there'll be a request for a bit more answers. The minister, we understand, answered questions in relation to this. We'll bring that to you subsequently as well. But let's stay on matters of ammunition closely related to crime, because Mr. Kumado mentions armed robbery amongst many other things. Because in recent months, Ghana's been gripped by a series of alarming incidents where individuals go missing only to be found dead under violent circumstances. From a Ghana Immigration Service officer lured to his death over a debt dispute, to taxi drivers kidnapped and murdered, and a popular TikTok performer found lifeless in a bush. These cases have sparked widespread concern and raised questions about public safety and community trust. We'll take you through the details right now, and that's what's on your screen. Between June and July of this year 2025, recent killings, we see Stephen Kin Amwa, as the Ghana Immigration Service officer who was killed and burnt over that 200,000 cedis debt. The suspect has been arrested, but away from his, there's been another unfortunate incident of a taxi driver at Ashaiman who was kidnapped for 60,000 cedis ransom. He was killed after his family could not pay. Then there's Patrick, another taxi driver at Ningo Pram Pram, who was murdered and his car stolen, but we understand the suspect as well have been arrested. Then there is another young taxi driver. There's a CCTV footage of that particular case whose body was dumped, and the CCTV footage is currently under review to help identify the perpetrators. Then there's Emmanuel J. Bafo, Atom de Morale. I mean, there's a lot of people know him on TikTok. He's a performer. His body was found in a bush near Jachi Pram, so after going missing for days, the cause of his death is currently under investigation. Look, let's put all of this to criminologist Dr. Jones Opokoware on this recent surge, whether or not he speaks to the weakness of our justice system. Doc, he, however, rules out ritual murders and is calling on individuals to report missing cases early enough to help with early tracing.
And if you look at the patterns of the murders as we find them, one, I'm ruling out ritual murders because, as we even indicated, none of these bodies, as they've been discovered, had any parts, dismembered, right? So typically, if you look at how ritual murders are carried out, you normally will find some part of the body missing. But if you have consistent pattern of people just being killed on the streets or maybe placed in some places, like we are seeing now, then it tells me that this is a serial pattern of some people who wants to, as it were, exert maybe reprisal on some people they might have some kind of, issue with or some kind of dealing with. So it becomes very difficult for the police to, as it were, police those kind of crimes because people will normally use subterfuge, they will use subtle deception and all that to get people into their location and the area where they think there's no guardianship and then exert that kind of brutality on them. It is very important that the police deploy, their resources much earlier. Much also, I expect also family members, they have to make the reports earlier. It actually speaks to the weakness of our judicial system. It speaks to the weakness of probably our criminal justice system. It even speak to the weakness of our security system. And I'm thinking that whilst I don't want to indict the police for now, I think that we should strengthen our investigation system and send a clear signal to Ghanaians and everybody that is concerned that, look, no matter who you are, if you come and commit a crime within our jurisdiction, the police can come after you and they will make sure that they get you, even if you cross the borders to wherever you want to go. Once that signal is clear, people will begin to realize that, look, this is not the way for them to exert revenge or deal with their friends, even if they have a problem with them.
That's Dr. Jones Opokuware. Jones Opokuware is a criminologist who's been speaking to us on these recent spades of killings. It will take us on to our very first break. When we return, a bit more stories on violence because in Zuarungu, a school's been shut down after rival groups in the school clashed Sunday. Stay with us for details.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Zuarungu.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News, leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online and digital. 3 News, first in news.
And you're welcome back to News Central. We're starting off this segment on the regions because the Zuarungu Senior High School in the Bolgatanga East District of the Upper East region has been closed down following violent clashes between various student groups on Sunday. The Upper East Regional Minister and Chairman of the Regional Security Council, Donatus Akumurgiri Atanga, ordered the immediate closure of the school to prevent a deterioration of the situation. The violent clash, reportedly sparked by alleged theft of a mobile phone, escalated into a large-scale brawl that resulted in significant destruction of school property, including the burning of some school structures. Security sources have confirmed to 3 News that 4 students have been arrested in connection with the unrest. In response to the chaos and rising tensions, a joint police and military task force has been deployed to the school. Castro Senyala is joining us with details right now. Castro, do we know, out of the many things, what really sparked all of this? We know there's alleged theft of a phone, but has that been corroborated?
Yes, of course, Mawena, that has been corroborated. And also, inside sources tell me that, yes, the theft of the phone is what triggered the violence that we witnessed. And that is being reported about. Security agencies tell me they are continuing with investigations to ascertain what other factors may have caused this violent clash between the 2 student groups over the phone. And so for now, this is what we can say. All we can report for now is that the phone theft is the reason why the 2 groups of students clashed violently, leading to the closure of the school.
What's the current situation in the school? Have all students vacated, or we still have a number of them lingering and trying to make their way home?
Yes, so I was at the campus earlier, and I can report that a lot of the students have left. I didn't see any student lingering around, except that I realized that there was a team of police and military men stationed in the campus to ensure that students are driven out of the campus, and also those who are going to conflict-prone areas like Boko and Binduri are escorted there safely so that they are able to get home safely. I didn't see anybody protest that he wouldn't go to school. Even the 3rd years who are preparing to write their exams all left quietly and were being escorted by the police and security out of the campus.
And we understand that one of the students was picked up by the police, escaped with a police magazine. What have you gathered on this?
Yes, the security agencies are quite quiet about this. They aren't saying much. By inside sources tell me that, yes, indeed, 5 students were arrested and were being transported to the Regional Police Command for interrogation regarding the incident. But as they moved along, students reportedly, escaped from custody with a rifle magazine that belonged to the security agencies. As I understand from sources on the ground now, the police are hot. They are not taking this matter very lightly and are doing everything possible to track down this student and retrieve that magazine. For the benefit of the doubt, those who don't know what a magazine is, this is usually the pouch where the bullets are stuffed before they are pushed under the belly of the rifle to make it complete and something you can shoot. It used to shoot, yes. And so that was the thing that the student took. And the police are not relenting efforts on that. We understand that efforts are being made to see how best they can retrieve that magazine that is with the student and also bring him back into custody.
Quickly, Castro, you said you've been to the campus. Walk us through the level of destruction as you've seen with your own eyes. We're seeing pictures on the screen, but how bad is it?
Yes, it isn't as bad as it appears, but then the student caused some damages to structures that sat on the campus of the school, especially at the common market, where makeshift structures made of wood and zinc were brought down and bent. Right. You also see the pictures I provided. You also see that things that are in these makeshift structures were also bent beyond recognition. Obviously, whoever they belong to, if they belong to the school, if I can say that, then definitely they would have to get new facilities to help in whatever they were meant for. there haven't been any substantive destruction to school property, as in chairs or even the structures of administration blocks and other things like that. No, we have no details of that yet. But then I can report that structures that sat on the campus that belong to the common market, we understand, we gather, were extensively destroyed and burned beyond recognition.
All right, Castro, just quickly before you leave us, any word from the Regional Security Council or the minister again after the school was completely evacuated, talks of when possibly they could move in to restore some of these destroyed facilities?
Not at all. We have not had any official communication from the RESEC chaired by the regional minister, Donatus Akamuki Atanga. But what I can report is that he was on the ground with the security, and by the security I mean RESEC, to ensure that the students were escorted out of the campus, and also those who needed escort to, areas far away where that was properly done, and to make sure that the students are safe and sound. But there hasn't been any official communication. But we keep our fingers crossed. If that would happen in the coming days, we definitely let our listeners and viewers know.
Castro, thank you very much. That's Castro Senyala, is my colleague in the Upper East region, providing details there for us on the situation in Zuarungu. And so there's a magazine, a rifle magazine that's been taken by one of the students who left custody or was able to escape from the custody of the police. The police is hot on that trail. Let's bring you to the Ashanti region, because more than a year after the Kwadaso onion market was demolished to make way for redevelopment, the site remains vacant. And now illegal structures are starting to crop up. Some aggrieved traders appear to be returning defying regulations by rebuilding on the land. Concerned residents are warning of a potential confrontation with these illegal occupants if the local assembly fails to take action. Ibrahim's been tracking the development, following through on it. Is currently at the Kwadaso Municipal Assembly. Hopefully he's got answers from there. Ibrahim, let's start off with why the redevelopment of the onion market has stalled.
Well, Mauna, like you said, in April 2024, that was last year, this demolition exercise was done, and they successfully moved all the onion traders from that area. In fact, they were initially relocated to Techiman, but later the traders said that place is not conducive for them, so they wouldn't want to stay there. So some of them moved to racecourse, others also moved to other satellite markets. Now, the land was left bare for that period of time till somewhere this year in March, May, when the new MC was sworn in. And he decided that, look, this is a bare land, let's try and redevelop it. That's when he started facing some stiff opposition or resistance from these traders who had earlier left the site but kept coming back gradually. Now, we are told that the World Bank is funding the project there. They are to construct this bus rapid transit in that area, and for that matter, 2 months ago, they decided to go on with the project. But then some of the traders came in saying that they own that land. It was back and forth until the assembly even had to go to court to secure an injunction, only for them to hear on Friday that people have gone there and started rebuilding the area using these wooden structures. They moved there and it turned chaotic. In fact, just some few minutes ago, we went there, but the traders were angry. They said they will not allow anyone to film. We even went there with some of the assembly members. It nearly turned chaotic. They are saying that they were promised by the NDC that when they vote them into office, they will allow them to come back there and work. That's how come they are going back there to work. So for now, the assembly has decided that, look, let's go back to the court, seek another injunction, place it there until we are able to secure the land fully before they can go ahead and do their project.
And so we know that these individuals responsible for mounting these wooden structures are the traders who are fighting the assembly. Outside of the injunction, the assembly says they are going to return to court to seek. What possibly do they seek to do as their next course of action?
Well, for now, when I asked the MC, he said they are only waiting on what the court will say, because I asked him that as the head of MUSEC, Municipal Security Council, why is he not taking the police there to at least protect that area? And he's telling me that he has reported the matter to the police, to the commander, since last week, and they are not taking any action. He doesn't know why they are not taking any action. He just feels that maybe the police is not ready to engage him or to work with them. So after court, he's taking the matter to the regional minister so that he is hoping that they will deploy a team of military there to be able to protect that land for them. So currently that is it. In fact, just a few minutes ago when we left the place, we saw the constituency, NDC constituency chairman of Kwadaso, who came there with some of the traders saying that he is leading them and he will not allow the assembly to take over the land, because he said that they went to promise the people that when they are voted into office, they will be giving the land back to them. And for that matter, he is not reneging on his promise. So currently, I can say authoritatively, because we granted him interview, and he said that that's the
promise they made.
Chairman of the NDC. So he is leading the traders to take over the land from the assembly.
We know you've been interacting with one of these individuals. Let's hear from him, and then we'll come back to you quickly to wrap up the conversation.
Assembly wants to make a move. They will come in with another strategy to distract the movement of the assembly like they are doing now. We had wanted to enter into the land with free minds, knowing that the land belongs to us, so that we can start developing the land. As I speak with you, the World Bank has also adopted that place to do a rapid bus terminal. So we have one at Swami, one at Oforikrom, and then one at Tafo. We are added to it as the fourth assembly. And the land that we want to use for such edifice, these people want to take it away from us. And not that we are sitting down, just look, we've been trying every possible means, but still it proves futile. So we are waiting on the courts to pass its judgment, then we will know the rightful owners of the land.
Ibrahim, just quickly, it means they are in court. When are we expecting the court to deliver a ruling possibly on this?
Well, by the close of the day, because they earlier secured an injunction which lasted for 10 days that has expired, and today they are going back to court to secure another injunction so that at least all activities or all development on the land will be on hold until they get to the finality of the matter. And by the way, that's the MCE for Kwadaso, Eric Esibe, whom I interacted with a short while ago.
Ibrahim, thank you very much. Bringing an end to Regional Hub here on News Central. Ibrahim talking us through on very interesting development, a party promising one thing, the MC, the municipality as well, wanting to go in another tangent. But that's it for Regional Hub. Now, the Bank of Ghana has assured the business community, particularly members of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, that there is no shortage of foreign exchange, also known as Forex, in the system. This is despite recent concerns as raised by the traders. This assurance follows a meeting between the central bank and GUTA leadership after widespread complaints from traders about difficulties in accessing Forex from commercial banks. GUTA President Dr. Joseph Obeng, in a statement, urged members of the business community to remain calm as the Bank of Ghana works to resolve the issue. Clement Boateng is the first vice president of Guta, presumably, was in that meeting as well with the Bank of Ghana. Mr. Boateng, thank you very much for speaking to us. What exactly are the concerns of traders with regards Forex and its acquisition? Because the Bank of Ghana says there is enough at the commercial banks.
Yeah, good afternoon, Bauto, and thank you for having me. As you rightly said, Bank of Ghana has said there are enough Forex in the system, so it beats our imagination as to how our members are complaining that when they go to their banks for transfer of Forex to be affected to their suppliers, the banks keep telling them that they don't have the Forex, and this has continued for close to 1 month now. So, as a responsible organization, we took it upon ourselves, to engage the Bank of Ghana and find out what is really the problem. If really there are shortages of Forex. So we had a meeting with the Bank of Ghana last Friday, and at the meeting, it was known to us that they also don't understand why the commercial banks are doing so, because as far as they are concerned, they have been supplying the commercial banks with Forex, and so it beats their imagination, for the banks to say that there are no Forex. So they assured us that this week they will monitor the banks, they will engage the banks and find out if there are really challenges or shortage of Forex. So we also we keep a close eye and also monitor and make sure that what Bank of Ghana told us is really the matter. So that is the issue at stake.
Right, Mr. Boss, have you personally experienced this challenge of a lack of Forex, having visited a commercial bank with legitimate documents seeking to go do business?
I personally, have not done any transfer for some time now. But a lot of my members, both Accra and Kumasi, have been complaining that when they go to the bank, transfers cannot be effected because the bank simply tell them that they don't have the Forex. So we thought it's even the issue of documentation, but that is not the issue. They have their documentation 100%, everything is genuine, but then bank cannot, do the transfer for them, and that is the reason why we have to engage, the Bank of Ghana.
And they say the banks give what excuse? What reasons did the bank give for not meeting their Forex demands? Is it that they do not have it?
There is no other reason. There is no other reason than to tell us that they don't have the Forex. There is no other reason. But they keep telling us that they don't have the Forex. But when we went to the Bank of Ghana also told us that they have been supplying them. So they also understand. They also don't understand why the bank keeps telling us that they don't have the Forex.
Well, like you said, the BOG says they will be monitoring this week. We'll return to you at the course of the week and find out what the situation is. But Mr. Boateng, thank you very much for speaking to us. And you may be wondering why this is a subject of importance to you. Remember, a lot of the goods you find on the market, Guta, goes out of the country and does the purchasing. They use the Forex, more often than not the dollar. If they are not getting it for cheap at the commercial banks, they will be forced to look elsewhere, which might go higher. The black market, for instance, which could be sold to them at a higher price, and that subsequently could mean higher prices for goods that you'll be finding on the market. And that's why there is that conversation we're having. But let's switch our focus from there and do something else, because it is a popular delicacy among Ghanaians, but its processing leaves much to be desired. Some fish processors continue to dry anchovies, popularly referred to as Keta school boys, on the background, raising concerns about hygiene and food safety. There's a bit more in this report.
What's my dad? At midday at Tema New Town, a fish processor has come in with the consignment of fresh anchovies to be prepared. For years, This has been the traditional and most preferred way of processing the fish, which will be dried and later sold at the markets. For the fish processor, the anchovies must have a specific texture. They must be brittle, dry, and not discolored, hence the decision to dry them under sunlight to achieve this texture. We first sprinkle pipe-borne water on the ground before drying it. The ones for poultry are dried directly on the ground. We need racks to dry the anchovies. One costs 600 cedis. Drying the Kettle School boys on bare ground raises significant food safety concerns. The practice exposes the fish to potential contamination from various sources, including reptiles, rodents, and insects. The dried Kettle School boys are collected using brooms that are not used for household chores, but rather specifically for gathering the fish. At Jamestown, the situation was slightly different. This time, the anchovies are dried on pavements.
They should vacate the pavement, else I'll stop them from drying the anchovies here.
What raised eyebrows was the source of water. The use of water from the polluted Kole Lagoon to wash the Kettle School boys raises serious concerns. This can further compromise the safety and quality of the fish. Aside this, particles or smoke from vehicle exhaust, worn-out tires and dust could compromise the safety of the fish.
I think we've got into an era where we have to change our attitude. The world is dynamic, it's not static, it's moving. So we need to move with it. So we've come far. So don't have to put fish on the floor. No. So I think they have to change their attitude and do the right thing. But we will continue to encourage them. I think we are getting somewhere. Now at least we have people who are certified and you can confidently buy from them and you know you are buying a safe fish.
Certainly, the fish processors need to be educated on best practices. Alternatives to drying on bare ground, such as using elevated racks or clean surfaces, will minimize contamination risks and provide a healthier product to consumers.
Health concerns, because you're seeing a lizard do a few catwalks on fish that will end up in our bellies. Most definitely cause for serious concern and a review of how all of that processing happens. But that's our bulletin for you. A reminder that you'll find a bit more news if you go on to 3news.com. Let's just catch a quick preview of what's leading the news items on 3news.com, and that presser by the Defense Minister, government to reconstruct the Zuarungu statue, and a host of other stories if you go on to 3news.com. We're back again tomorrow with another exciting edition of News Central. I am Mawina Egbeta. Up next is the afternoon show.